I'm sorry for that, for your sake. I don't play accurately. Anyone can play accurately, but I play with wonderful expression.
Yes, sir.
Did you get the cucumber sandwiches cut for Lady Ragnar?
Yes, sir.
That will do, Lane. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Mr. Ernest Bird.
How are you, my dear Ernest? What brings you up to town?
Oh, pleasure, pleasure. What else would bring anyone anywhere, eating as usual as I see, Algie?
I believe it is customary in good society to take some sudden refreshment at 5 o'clock. Where have you been? Where have you been since last Thursday?
In the country.
What on earth do you do there?
When one is in town, one amuses oneself. When one is in the country, one amuses other people. It is excessively boring.
Who are the people you amuse?
Oh, neighbors, neighbors.
Got nice neighbors in your part of Shropshire?
Perfectly horrid. You never speak to one of them.
I meant that you must amuse them. By the way, Shropshire is your county, is it not?
Shropshire? Yes, of course. Hello. Why all these cups? Why cucumber sandwiches? Why such reckless extravagance and one so young? Who is coming to tea?
Well, merely Aunt Augusta and Gwendolyn.
How perfectly delightful.
Yes, that is very well, but I don't think Aunt Augusta will quite approve of your being here.
May I ask why?
My new fellow, the way you flirt with Gwendolyn is perfectly disgraceful. It's almost as bad as the way Gwendolyn flirts with you.
I'm in love with Gwendolyn. I've come up to town expressly to propose to her.
I thought you'd come up for pleasure. I call that business.
How utterly unromantic you are.
I don't really see anything romantic in proposing. Don't touch the cucumber sandwiches. They are ordered specially for Aunt Augusta.
Well, you have been eating them all the time.
That is quite a different matter. She's my aunt. Have some bread and butter. The bread and butter is for Gwendolyn. Gwendolyn's devoted to bread and butter.
And very good bread and butter it is too.
Ah, my dear fellow, you need not eat as if you're going to eat at all. You behave as if you're already married to her. You're not married to her already, and I don't think you ever will be.
May I ask why?
Well, in the first place, girls never marry the men they flirt with. Girls don't think it right.
Oh, that is nonsense.
It isn't. It is great truth. In the second place, I don't give my consent.
Your consent?
My dear fellow, Gwendolyn's my first cousin. Before I allow you to marry her, you have to clear up the whole question of Cecily.
Cecily? What on earth do you mean by Cecily, Algie? I don't know anyone with the name of Cecily.
Bring me that cigarette case, Mr. Worthing, left in the smoking room the last time he dined here.
Yes, sir.
Do you mean to say you've had my cigarette case all this time? I have too goodness you would let me know. I've been writing frantic letters to Scotland Yard about it. I was merely offering a large reward.
Well, I wish you would offer one. Acting more than usually hard up. However, it makes no matter. Now that I look at the inscriptions inside, I find things are yours after all.
Of course it's not. You have no right to read what is written inside. It is a very ungentlemanly thing to read a private cigarette case.
Yes, but this isn't your cigarette case. This cigarette case is a gift from someone named Cecily. He said he didn't know anyone of that name.
Well, if you want to know, Cecily happens to be my aunt.
Your aunt?
Yes, my aunt. Charming little lady she is too. Lives at Tunbridge Wells. Now just give me back my cigarette case.
Yes, but why does your aunt call herself Little Cecily? From Little Cecily with her fondest love.
My dear fellow, what on earth is there in that? Some ants are tall, some ants are not tall. That is merely thinking an ant can decide for herself. Now just give me back my cigarette case.
Yes, but why does your aunt call you her uncle? From Little Cecily with her fondest love to dear Uncle Jack. I can't quite make it out. An aunt, no matter what her size may be, should call her own nephew her uncle. Besides, your name isn't Jack at all, it's Earnest.
It isn't Ernest, it's Jack.
You've always told me it was Earnest. I've introduced you to everyone as Earnest. You answered the name of Earnest, and you look as if your name was Earnest. The most earnest-looking person I've ever seen in my life. It's perfectly absurd you're saying your name isn't Earnest. It's on your cards. Here is one of them. Mr. Ernest Worthing, before the Albany.
Well, my name is Ernest in town and Jack in the country, and the cigarette case was given to me in the country.
Now go on, tell me the whole thing. I may mention I've always suspected you of being a confirmed and secret bunburyist.
Bunburyist? What on earth do you mean by bunburyist?
I'll reveal to you that meaning of that incomparable expression, as you soon revealed to me while you're Ernest in town and Jack in the country.
Well, produce my cigarette case first.
Here it is. Now produce your explanation, and pray make it improbable.
My dear fellow, there's nothing improbable about my explanation at all. In fact, it is perfectly ordinary. The old Mr. Thomas Cardew adopted me into his will, guardian, to his granddaughter, Miss Cecily Cardew, who addresses me as her uncle for motives of respect which you possibly couldn't appreciate. Lives at my place in the country, under the charge of her admirable governess, Miss Prism.
Where is that place in the country, by the way?
That has nothing to do, my dear boy. You will not be invited. I may tell you candidly that the place is not in Shropshire.
I suspected that. I've bumbried all over Shropshire on 2 separate occasions. Now go on. Why are you Earnest in town, Jack in the country?
My dear fellow, I don't know you you will be able to understand my real motives. You are hardly serious enough. When one is placed in position of guardian, one has to adopt a very high moral tone on all subjects. It is one's duty to do so, and this very high moral tone can hardly be conduced to one's health or one's happiness. In order to get up to town, I've always pretended to have a younger brother called Earnest, who lives in the Albany and gets the most dreadful of scrapes. That, my dear Algie, is the whole truth, pure and simple.
I was quite right in saying you're a bumbriest. One of the most advanced bumbriists I know.
What on earth do you mean?
You have invented a very useful younger brother called Earnest in order that you may be able to get to the country as often as you like. I have invented a very useful younger brother called Bunbury in order that I might be able to get to the country as often as I like. Bunbury is perfectly invaluable. If it wasn't for his extraordinary bad health, I wouldn't be able to dine with you at Willis's tonight. But I've been really engaged to Aunt Augusta for more than a week.
I haven't asked you to dine with me anywhere.
I know, you're perfectly careless about sending out invitations.
You had much better dine with your Aunt Augusta.
I have the smallest intention of doing so. I dine there on Monday, and once a week is quite enough to dine with one's own relations. Besides, now that I know that you're a Bunburyist, I naturally want to talk to you about Bunbury. I want to tell you all the rules.
I'm not a Bunburyist at all. If one only accepts me, I'm going to kill my brother. Indeed, I think I might kill him in any case. Cecily is a bit too interested in him. It is rather a bore, so I'm going to get rid of Ernest. And I strongly advise you to do the same thing with your invalid friend with the absurd name.
Nothing will induce me to part with Bunbury. If you get married, it seems to me extremely problematic. You'll be very glad to know Bunbury.
I marry a charming girl like Gwendolyn, and she is the only girl I ever saw in my life that I would want to marry. I certainly won't want to know Bunbury.
Ah, that must be Aunt Augusta and Gwendolyn. Only relatives or creditors are ring in that Wagnerian manner. Now, if I get Aunt Augusta out of the way for 10 minutes for you to propose to Gwendolyn, may I dine with you at Willis's tonight?
I suppose so, if you want to.
Lady Bracknell, Miss Fairfax.
Good afternoon, dear Arthur. I hope you are behaving very well.
Feeling very well, Aunt Augusta.
That is not quite the same thing. In fact, the two things rarely go together.
Dear me, you're smart.
I'm always smart, am I not, Mr. Worthing?
You're perfect, Miss Fairfax.
Oh, I hope I'm not that. That would leave no room for development. I intend to develop in many directions. I'm sorry if we are a little late, Algernon, but I was obliged to call in dear Lady Harbury, and I'll have a cup of tea and order those nice cucumber sandwiches you promised me.
Certainly, Aunt Augusta.
Won't you come and sit here, Wednesday? Thank you, Mamma. I'm quite comfortable where I am.
Good heavens, Lane! Where are the cucumber sandwiches? I ordered them specially.
Sir, there were no cucumbers in the market, sir. I went down twice.
No cucumbers.
No, sir, not even for ready money.
That will do, Lane. Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
I'm greatly distressed, Aunt Augusta, about there being no cucumbers in the market today. Not even for ready money.
It really makes no matter, Algernon, thank you. I had some comfort with Lady Harbury. Now, I have quite a treat for you tonight, Algernon. I'm going to send you down with Mary Farquhar. She's such a nice woman and so attentive to her husband.
I'm afraid I'll have to give up the pleasures of dining with you tonight, Aunt Augusta.
I hope not. It would put my table completely out.
I'm sorry, it's rather a bore, but I've just got a telegram from my poor friend Bunbury, and it's saying he's very ill again. I'd much rather think I should be with him.
It is very strange. This Mr. Bunbury seems to suffer from curiously bad health.
Yes, Bunbury's a dreadful invalid.
Well, I do hope that Mr. Bunbury would make up his mind whether he was going to live or die. This shilly-shallying with the question is absurd. Nor do I in any way approve of the modern sympathy with invalids. I would be much obliged if you would ask Mr. Bunbury, from me, to be kind enough not to have a relax on Saturday, for I rely on you to arrange my music for me. It is my last reception.
I'll talk to Bunbury, Aunt Augusta, if he's still conscious. But I think I can promise you he'll be okay by Saturday. You see, music is a great difficulty. If one plays good music, people don't listen. But if one plays bad music, people don't talk. But I'll run over the program I've drawn out for you. If you'll kindly step into the next room.
Thank you, Algernon. I'm sure it will be delightful after a few explications. Gwendolyn, you will accompany me.
Certainly, Mamma.
Charming day it has been, Miss Fairfax.
Pray don't talk to me about the weather, Mr. Worthing. Whenever people talk to me about the weather, I always feel quite certain that they mean something else. And that makes me so nervous.
I do mean something else.
I thought so. In fact, I am never wrong.
And I would like to take advantage of Lady Bracknell's temporary absence.
I would certainly advise you to do so. Mamma has a way of coming back into a room suddenly that I've often had to speak to her about.
Miss Fairfax, ever since I've met you, I've adored you more than any girl I've ever met since I met you.
Yes, I'm quite well aware of the fact. And I wish that in public at any rate you would be more demonstrative. To me, you've always had an irresistible fascination. Even before I met you, I was far from indifferent to you. We live, as I hope you know, Mr. Worthing, in a world of ideals. And my ideal has always been to love someone of the name of Earnest. There is something in that name that inspires absolute confidence. But now do not mention to me that he had a friend named Earnest. I knew I was destined to love you.
You really love me, Gwendolyn?
Passionately.
Darling, you don't know how happy you've made me.
My own Ernest.
But do you really mean to say you couldn't love me if my name wasn't Ernest?
But your name is Ernest.
Yes, I know, but suppose it was something else. Do you mean to say you still couldn't love me then?
Ah, that is clearly a metaphysical speculation. And like most metaphysical speculations, has little reference to the actual facts of real life as we know them.
Well, personally, darling, I don't much care for the name of Ernest. I don't think it suits me.
It suits you perfectly. It is a divine name. It has a music of its own. It produces vibration.
Well, I think there are much nicer names, like Jack, for instance.
Jack! No, there is very little music, if at all any indeed, in the name of Jack. It does not thrill. It produces absolutely no vibrations. No, the only really safe name is Earnest.
Gwendolyn, I must get christened at once. I mean, we must get married at once.
Married, Mr. Worthing.
Well, surely you know that I love you, and you've led me to believe that you're not absolutely indifferent to me.
I adore you. But you haven't proposed to me yet. Nothing has been said at all about marriage. The subject has not even been touched upon.
Well, may I propose to you now?
I would certainly advise you to do so. And to spare you any possible doubt upon the subject, I think it only fair to tell you that I'm fully determined to accept you.
Gwendolyn!
Yes, Mr. Worthing? What have you got to say to me?
You know what I've got to say.
Yes, but you don't say it.
Gwendolyn, will you marry me?
Of course I will, darling. How long you have been about it. What wonderfully blue eyes you have, Ernest. They're quite blue. I hope you will always look at me like that, especially when other people are present.
Mr. Worthing, rise, sir, from this semi-recumbent posture.
No! I must beg you to retire. This is no place for you. Besides, Mr. Worthing has not quite finished yet.
Finished what, may I ask?
Mr. Worthing and I are engaged to be married, Mamma.
Pardon me, you are not engaged to anyone. When you do become engaged to someone, I or your father, should his health permit him, will inform you of the fact. An engagement should come on a young girl as a surprise, pleasant or unpleasant, as the case may be. I have a few questions to put to Mr. Worthing. While I am making these inquiries, you, Gwendolyn, will wait for me below in the carriage.
Mamma!
In the carriage, Gwendolyn. Gwendolyn, the carriage!
Yes, Mamma.
You may take a seat, Mr. Worthing.
Thank you, Lady Bracknell. I prefer standing.
Do you smoke?
Well, yes, I do admit I do smoke.
I'm glad to hear it. A man should always have an occupation of some kind. How old are you?
29.
A very good age to be married at. Now, I've always been of the opinion that a man who desires to get married should know either everything or nothing. Which do you know?
I know nothing, Lady Bracknell.
I am pleased to hear it. Ignorance is like a delicate exotic fruit. Touch it, and the bloom is gone. What is your income?
Between 7,000 and 8,000 a year.
In land or in investments?
In investments, chiefly.
That is satisfactory.
I do have a country house with some land attached to it, of course, about 1,500 acres.
A country house? How many bedrooms? Well, that point can be cleared up afterwards. You have a townhouse too, I hope. A girl with a simple, unspoiled nature like Gwendolyn could hardly be expected to reside in the country.
I do own a townhouse in Belgrave Square.
What number in Belgrave Square?
149.
The unfashionable side. I thought there was something. However, that can easily be altered.
Do you mean the fashion or the side?
Both necessary, I presume. Now, to minor matters. Are your parents living?
I lost both my parents when I was young.
To
To lose one parent, Mr. Worthing, may be regarded as a misfortune. To lose both looks like carelessness. Who was your father?
I'm afraid I really don't know. When I told you I had lost both my parents, if you hear the truth to say my parents have lost me, I was found.
Found?
Yes, Lady Bracknell, I was found. The late Mr. Thomas Cardew found me and gave me the name of Worthing because he had a first-class ticket in his pocket to Worthing. Worthing is a seaside resort.
And where did this charitable gentleman with the first-class ticket to a seaside resort find you?
In a handbag.
Handbag?
Yes, a somewhat large black leather handbag with handles.
In what locality did this Mr. James Thomas Cardew come across this ordinary handbag?
In the cloakroom of Victoria Station. It was given to him in mistake of his own.
Cloakroom? At Victoria Station?
Yes, Lady Bracknell, the Brighton line.
The line is immaterial. I must confess, I feel somewhat bewildered by what you've just told me. To be born ordinary, bred in handbag, whether it had handles or not, seems to me to display a contempt for the ordinary decencies of family life that reminds one of the worst excesses of the French Revolution.
Well, then may I ask what you advise me to do? I will do anything to ensure Gwendolyn's happiness.
I would strongly advise you, Mr. Worthing, to try and acquire some relations as soon as possible, and to make a definite effort to produce at any rate one parent of either sex before the season is quite over.
I don't see how I could possibly do that. I can produce the handbag at any moment. It's in my dressing room. I really think that should satisfy you.
Me? What does it have to do with me, sir? You can hardly imagine that I, young Lord Bracknell, would dream of allowing our only daughter, a girl brought up with the utmost care, to marry into a cloakroom and to form an alliance with a parcel. Good morning, Mr. Worthing.
Good morning, Lady Bracknell. Don't sing this ghastly tune, Algie.
She refused you, I suppose.
No, she's an angel, but her mother. Do you think Gwendolyn will be like her mother in, say, 150 years?
All women become like their mothers. That's their tragedy. All men don't. That's theirs. By the way, did you tell Gwendolyn about you being Ernest in town and Jack in the country?
Oh, one doesn't just blurt these things out to a sweet, innocent, refined girl like Gwendolyn. What extraordinary ideas about the way you behave to a woman.
The only way to behave to a woman is to flirt with her if she is pretty and with someone else. If she is plain.
Oh, that is nonsense. You always talk nonsense.
What about your brother? What about your brother Ernest?
Oh, by the end of the week, I'll have gotten rid of Ernest. I'll say he died abroad, in Paris, of apoplexy. Lots of people die of apoplexy. Don't they, Algie?
Yes, but it's hereditary. It runs in families. You must better say he died of a severe chill.
Very well, then. My poor brother Ernest is taken off in Paris by severe chill. That gets rid of him.
But I thought you said Miss Cardew was a bit interested in him. Don't you feel his loss a great deal?
Oh, no. Cecily isn't a silly romantic girl, I'm glad to say. She has a capital appetite, goes on long walks, and pays no attention to her studies.
I'd much rather like to meet Cecily.
But I'll make it that you don't.
She is excessive.
She's excessively pretty and only just 18.
Have you told Gwendolyn you have an excessively pretty ward who's only just 18?
Oh, one doesn't just blurt these things out to people. I'll bet half an hour in of Cecily and Gwendolyn are bound to be very good friends. And they'll already be calling each other sisters.
Women only do that if they've been calling each other lots of other things first. Now, if we really want to get a good table at Willis's, we better get going. Did you know it's nearly 7?
It is always nearly 7.
Well, I'm hungry.
I didn't know you when you weren't.
What should we do afterwards?
Nothing.
Miss Fairfax.
Gwendolyn, upon my word.
Algie, kindly turn your back. I have something very particular to say to Mr. Worthing.
Really, Gwendolyn?
My own darling.
Oh, my own Ernest. Although Mamma may prevent us from becoming man and wife, and I may marry someone else and marry often, nothing she can ever say or do can ever alter my eternal devotion to you.
My own one.
The story of your romantic origins, as related to me by Mamma with and pleasing side comments, has naturally stirred the deeper fibers of my nature. Your town addressed me only I have. What is your address in the country?
The Manor House, Woolton, Hertfordshire.
There's a good postal service, I suppose? It may be necessary to do something desperate. I will communicate with you daily.
Gwendolyn.
Algie, you may turn round now.
Thank you, I already have long ago.
How long do you remain in town?
Till Monday.
Excellent. You may also ring the bell.
May I see you to your carriage?
Yes.
I will see Miss Fairfax out.
Tomorrow, Lane, I'm going to Bunbury.
Yes, sir.
I probably won't be back till Monday. You can get all my nice clothes, my suit jacks, my smoking jacket, and all the Bunbury suits.
Yes, sir.
What are you so amused by?
Oh, just a little worried about Bunbury, that's all.
If you don't take care of Bunbury, he's going to get you into a dreadful scrape one day.
I love scrapes. They're the only things that are never serious.
Algie, you are always talking nonsense.
Nobody ever does.